you all about, I really wanted to do a couple things with this, and they're somewhat interrelated. I had asked Kevin where we were with respect to the strategic plan, if we'd ever effectively slapped the table on it and said it's good, publish it, we're done, it's written. And I'm not sure I know the exact answer.
It looks like it's done.
Okay, all right. Well, that's what some people say. Okay, aren't we done with this? And so that was the first part. So that's good. The second part was I wanted to take a little bit of time to review the superintendent's performance evaluation process and kind of regroup on what we're going to do for this performance period, which began basically July 1st. So we're into it, July 1st and into June. And just make sure we're all on the same page on that. A review of what we did this year in 2023 for Kevin's first performance period, we had written 11 NLCS specific goals and objectives that were the performance objectives, and then we also, in concert with that, used the 6 standard ISBA recommended rubric that every superintendent state could be evaluated by. For the rating period then of 24-25 that we just came through, we effectively left it unchanged. It was pretty much the same, even though a couple of the things have kind of become OBE, or have been accomplished, such as the conversion to semesters from trimester, right? But we didn't really refresh that or really talk about it. So when we got into it in the review process, I had asked Yancey Unger to help us by kind of automating it, because last year was kind of a very handwritten or Excel-based thing. It was kind of kludgy. So Yancey helped automate that via a web-based survey that you all took. At the same time, we talked about Mr. Yancey's direct reports also filling out the rubric as in a kind of a 360 type feedback process along those same 6 elements that were the standard ISBA recommended rubric. Now this is where I got a little bit of feedback that maybe that was right, maybe it was wrong. I ended up combining the feedback of all of that into the final performance evaluation, although it was in separate sections, so you could get kind of a side-by-side comparison. I had asked Yancey Unger, I said, will Mr. Yancey see this direct reports feedback other than through this evaluation process? He said no. So I said, okay, we'll just fold it in. So when we did the eval, and you all have seen this documented, the first section was, here's what your direct reports scored you in the standard rubric, and then here's what the board scored you in both the standard rubric and the 11 specific goals and objectives, and then at the end there was kind of a side-by-side comparison. So that was the document that you all have seen. Got some feedback that, hey, this is a board function. We should really only have maybe the board scorings in there, which is valid. But I do think the 360 process was a good one. But I think how do we want to do it next year? So, but tabling that thought. B, are we going to tie the performance objectives that would be NLCS specific to the thrust areas, the focus areas that are outlined in the strategic plan? Those are the discussion topics, and so I kind of throw that out there. It sounds like we've just confirmed that this is in its final form, so we know we have these 4 focus areas that are somewhat NLCS specific, and then we have the standard rubric, which is always available. So put that out there for discussion.
The standard one being the ISBA.
The ISBA, the 6 elements that are human capital management, instructional leadership person, but yeah. And then each of those has a subset, some more than others. But those are always out there, and I suspect, for consistency's sake, so you see them stay, you see a trend over time. The next time we'll have three evaluations on Kevin, you'll be able to see, is he improving in human capital management, as long as we stay to that standard. So at a minimum, I say we should stay to that 6-element ISBA standard. So.
And that's the one the directors and administrators use too, right?
We did this year, and that was something that we kind of elected to do.
The same one we saw.
It's the same 6 elements. Yeah, they had a chance and they're rated the same way, 1 through 4. So.
I think that 360 feedback so that because we don't always know what,
Right.
those because we're not in the day-to-day operations, so I think having the 360, I mean, if I were him, I'd wanna see it, but if that's a process thing, I think just making sure the board members have it would be,
How about with directors and
Yeah.
administrators? Yeah, I like to see the other side of it.
yeah, just,
What
cause I think
we don't see.
I think it informs our evaluation if we know how because we don't know that.
Right. And speaking of that, so, and further, for the sake of, I don't know, security is not the right word, but the feedback from the directors and the administrators, the exact comments were not shared with Kevin.
Right.
He saw the scoring,
Mhm.
but the exact comments, so that no one could be personally identified. I think Yancey did a good job of kind of amalgamating those in an AI type of engine in order to kind of get good summaries of what the trends were of those comments. So those exact comments, though, the board did see every exact comment that was made by a director or administrator. So
But still anonymously, we didn't know who.
we didn't, anonymously,
Right.
yeah, we did not know who said what. So. And I think, from what I saw, and you all saw the side by side, whether the absolute value was higher or lower on average, the trends kind of followed. So at least you know that you're on trend, if nothing else. So.
But, but
Go ahead.
since they're separate, and what we see versus what they see, I'm not sure being on the trend is necessarily a good thing. I mean, because what they see day to day and what we see or try to evaluate could be a lot different because we don't see it day to day, right? So, but
Yeah, we have more of, I'd say, an external perspective.
if there's, an area that's more positive than negative or more negative than positive, that should fall out.
So would the general consensus be, I guess a pretty elementary question is, should we do the same, allow the same evaluations, both as the 360 kind of the under and the board over, but keep them in two separate documents like next year? Is that your feeling?
I think
The content will
Yeah.
all still be very much the same, but so that it makes it a little clearer that this is really what the board's saying,
You
Yeah,
mean
we need
when
to
it's,
know what.
when it's presented to him?
what is presented here.
Okay, yeah.
Wasn't it like that this time?
No, well, it was all in the same document. It was
Yeah, but it
outlined
was-
that it was, this is
yeah.
the direct reports, these are the board, but actually the direct reports were put in there first, and then the second was
Yeah,
the,
it was all labeled, I
Yeah.
mean, it was pretty clear.
so,
I mean, I like having that data from them.
yeah,
I do
yeah.
too.
I think it's good data for Kevin to see, for the superintendent to see. Okay, well, we'll keep the same data, but keep it separate documents then, well, I don't know that I'll be doing it, but, so we've had this conversation, and whoever does it next year, that'll probably be the same approach that's taken with it. Same data, different documents. Now, beyond the standard 6-element rubric that ISBA has recommended, what NLCS specific goals and objectives for this 25 and the 26 rating period do we want to ask or put on Kevin as his performance objectives? Oh, sure.
Will one be weighted more than the other?
I don't know really that we got into any type of weighting. Everything you saw was averaged, but I can't think that there's any weighting to anything.
there's a lot of overlap between, I guess some overlap between ISBA and 6 and or 11 or really 8, if you take out the ones that were done.
Right.
And then the strategic plan, right? But I think the next iteration of the strategic plan, in my opinion, I think we should evaluate the superintendent on the strategic plan, being compliant with all the legal issues. And this year, the stakeholder accounts. And then annually, we do the strategic plan and making sure you don't violate any state or federal regulation. And then, so if there's something in the standard ISBA unit that we want, we should incorporate it in our strategic plan. And then our strategic plan should be what we evaluate the superintendent every year.
In whole and only.
Yeah, unless there's something from the rubric that we want to incorporate in at some point, right? So, because if it's important, if it's a core value or a vision of the community, it should be in the plan. And that's the plan, it should be what we evaluate on.
But I'm thinking of like in the standard rubric, there's like the personal behavior and,
Professional behavior.
professional behavior, that kind of thing. I don't know, how would that be mirrored in our strategic plan? Wouldn't really move it.
Well, we would, if that's important to us, then we need to find a way to put that into our plan, right? It could be under accountability, it could be under communications, right? We have 5 core values, right? We have collaboration, we have
But
responsibility.
these are more on the system, not
Yeah, this is
him.
for the NLCS,
Right,
not just
but
a
he
person.
leads NLCS, right? I mean, these are, like, if we look at the focus area, it's one of them. Number 3, right? Growth and satisfaction. This is a focus, we have required outcomes for our strategic plan for this corporation. Our superintendent is responsible for making sure these required outcomes are met, right? So we should evaluate him based upon whether or not he meets these required outcomes. And that's the way the strategic plan should be set up, and that's the way it should run. So if those kind of things are critical to us, then they should be incorporated in here somehow. We just have to be, based on what we want, created enough to put in there. You know,
We
all these
probably
things
should
are
have
happening.
done that before we did this.
That's what I'm saying, because the next time we do a strategic plan, we'll do these for next year, right?
Okay.
Because we haven't done it yet, but we don't want to do it now, because this is final, we've already been on the 12 months, we don't get on.
Right.
But the next time we update this, or make sure we update this by next July 1st, and then everything that we want to evaluate, we should be on.
The only problem I saw through that is the consistency year over year and board over board, because those 6 elements pretty much, I would say, stay consistent.
Yeah, but we haven't had a strategic plan until now,
True.
and if we have it and we're going to use it, then we should use it. I mean, that should be our document, right?
Right.
Otherwise,
Yeah, I definitely want to use it. I see it more as a complementary thing where the 6 elements being somewhat consistent standard. Admittedly, a lot of it's redundant, you know, when you talk about,
if he gets a 1 on professional or personal, and he meets every one of these goals, what's your conclusion, right? I mean, you say, well, yeah, he can't talk to people, hell, he does everything else great, right? So you're gonna say, well, can't talk to people, let's get rid of it. I mean, you know, if it's a value that we have, we wanna grade him on, it should be in the plan. I mean,
I see your point,
purpose.
but this is for, it talks about value, and we're teaching our kids, that's what we're teaching them, and so he'd have to live it himself, so I feel like he's incorporated into what we're teaching our kids. But I see what you're saying.
He's responsible.
I feel like it's already
He's
in there.
responsible for accomplishing the outcomes in our plan.
Mhm.
Right? I mean, that's what he's here for, right? And so if
It's
how you
not-
treat
It's
the-
not just him, I mean, it's a whole corporation plan.
But he leads
for
the
everybody.
corporation, right?
Well, yeah, but he's.
Well, yeah, and I think too, I totally understand what you're saying too, Scott, but also what are the means to the end, right? Like if I think some of the things in the SBA or SBOA, ISBA, I'm gonna State Board of Accounts, different one, are somewhat capturing how he does it, which I do think is important, to a degree, or whoever the superintendent is, I'm not just saying you specifically, but the methods, I think, do matter, even if we cut costs or I don't think that's in here, but the way he did it was not palatable to the board. I think that would not be captured in here.
But, I mean, we talk to him once a month or more or less, and we know what he's doing. The community's here, so if he's
But I'm
not.
talking about in a formal evaluation, we wouldn't have a place to say, I'm really concerned with how he did X to get to this outcome,
but-
in a formal evaluation.
Right, but if that quality was critical enough that we need to evaluate them, then somehow we should incorporate it into the plan so that we could use it formally. Right, I mean, we got core values can use our annually updated strategic plan as the actual driving document for the corporation moving forward. And basically, you know, we determine, the board will determine what outcomes are necessary, critical. And then Mr. Yancey would set up interim goals for himself and for the corporation to reach these goals so that he can evaluate them. And then each month in the school board, he should give us an update on one or all of those interim goals, right? So we develop the outcomes, he sets up interim goals based on that, we approve the interim goals. And then he can, at whatever granularity he wants, quarterly or semi-annually, and then he can keep us up to date, and at the end of the year, we can evaluate where he is based on what we agree it should be.
Do you
You know, for
think
those goals that are more than 1 year.
Do you think it'd be a worthwhile exercise to take the ISBA and its 6 elements and 3 to 5 sub-elements of each one, and our 4 focus areas, and they have, it looks like, 4 or 5 key strategies and outcomes in each one, and kind of like do that, cross-decking or show
Yeah,
where
well,
they tie?
We have some overlap already.
Right, right.
We got some between the ISBA and then our 11 or 8, and then this already.
Right.
I mean, like facilities, the best example, they overlap a lot.
Right. But we have more specificity, say, in the student outcomes for, student learning and academics
Right.
than what the ISBA
And
has.
we should have that specificity in all of it, right? I mean,
Well, right.
that's the issue, is we need, because then he has, especially if it's more than 1 year. I mean, if it's an annual goal, it's different. But
Right.
But if we did that, would our required outcomes and strategies have to be so specific? I'm afraid we,
Going back
because
to
I'm
the-
looking at the student wellness, student
Right.
support,
That's one I was coming up.
and it's like, all facilities are safe.
Okay.
So that would,
So, how do we,
SRO coverage.
if we're gonna, Adam said maybe we should use this to evaluate. We evaluate him next year, and we say, well, all the facilities are safe, how do we evaluate that? Right, then there needs, right, nobody fell out a window, and they're all safe, so there needs to be some specificity in, I apologize to Justin for this, the goals or outcomes that are set in here, right? Because if it's not specific and measurable, we can't evaluate them on anything.
But some of these you just can't make specific, like ensure all students' social and emotional needs are met and supported. I mean, he can put in place all the people that can make that happen, but there's no way to measure that.
Well, and I think this is too, these are goals.
Right.
And some of them are gonna take,
Every year.
right, so increasing total teacher compensation annually while remaining consistent with strategic goals. That there may be, with all the changes at the state level, it might be impossible at one juncture, but then not the next year. How I would,
So then what you would say increase the, one outcome would be minimum salary for any teacher in the 2028-2029 school year is $50,000. And the total compensation is 68% consistent with the state law.
I just think
And
that's
if
really
the law
rigid.
changes, you have to have a specific goal if you're going to evaluate whether or not you reached it.
but that doesn't have to be in the strategic. We had a 20, 25, 30 page strategic plan with a lot of detailed little points, and we narrowed it down to this to make it more general.
And I think what we're confusing for me is a job description versus a strategic plan. The job description is how I would evaluate someone in my professional world. Here's what you were responsible for, here are the outcomes that you were supposed to make progress towards, and here's how well you did it, versus it's aligned with the strategic plan, but so is Fatima's role, right? To me, it's a job description versus a strategic plan, although yes, there should be connection there.
His goals need to match the plan.
Right, so whatever he
but-
does in his job description should contribute to them.
Yeah.
But I think, we may not have, so going back to the ensure students' social and emotional needs are met and supported, there may not be an exact, measurable outcome there in terms of numerics or something like that. But if you see several board members rating us lower there, rating the superintendent lower there, and let's say this direct reports survey continues, and several direct reports are ranking lower there, you're seeing the trend, and then really, that as much as anything is the trend for the mass opinion, because it's not like one person here is the CEO that's evaluating Kevin.
Right.
It's a group effort, and so as you see that trend, that's enough to say that's a focus area, that's a problem area that needs to be worked on in the next performance period, or even if it's in a mid-year, even in this year, right? So I don't think you have to get to numerics on every single thing. While the way we score it 1 through 4 will show you where there's some, I'd say, valid weaknesses.
So how do you evaluate comprehensive mental health support in every building?
Well,
What exactly
I think
is
the
my
way you,
opinion based on what I heard?
I think if everybody, if 7 board members and up to 23 direct reports rate a 1 through 4 on that bullet, and we see that lower relative to some of the other things,
But
then we know that's an
you
area.
rate it here, 1 through 4, based upon what criteria? That's what I'm
Fair.
saying.
That's fair.
There's no criteria here to tell me
Yeah, it's not
if I should vote a
operationalized.
1 or 2 or 3 or 4,
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
So if you don't,
that's fair.
even in the rubric that we get from
Yeah, they don't have
ISBA,
that.
they have, what they normally say is always, usually, sometimes,
Yeah,
never.
yeah, yeah.
And that's really not right, because we look at some, we say, I don't really know.
Well, you're
this
always
is-
sometimes different.
And these are
than
general, so we don't even know they apply. I mean, we could go through and cut some out if we don't think they
So
apply.
we could do,
But you can't rate these 1 through 4 because they're subjective, right? And you don't want to evaluate them based on my opinion, or I heard from these people. You want to have something concrete that he can work towards, right? I mean, otherwise, what if, he does something that makes people mad, so they're going to bring him down? I mean.
Well, that's where, like, people who would know this, the principals say, on this point, in particular, would be one you want to weigh their opinions pretty heavily, or not weigh them, but pay attention to them pretty heavily and say, well, the principals are saying we don't have comprehensive mental health support in
But
every building.
we don't have the principals come in and say, well, this rubric 1.1, how do you feel about it, right? I mean,
We did. On the ISBA standard, we did anyway, and we could do it on this too.
yeah, but that's what we evaluate them, not them, right? We evaluate, right? So,
Well, okay, we could see what the principals say about that, I guess.
we could also have,
again, it's subjective because
we could also have
he has
a,
nothing to meet. He has no concrete,
we could also have, we could have examples of evidence. So this is like what we do when we review people for tenure. We say, you can meet this outcome by doing, it's like 5 or 6. They have, here are some examples of evidence of this. And it's not just one metric, right? Because what does that mean? So we could think about, when you ask the principals that, what evidence here, it might not be all of them, but what do you see in your building?
Mhm.
Gives it a little bit more flexibility, but it's still objective.
Yeah.
that kind of be dependent on their definition of mental health,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But if we had some specifics, right, a specific outcome, then he could work towards it, and we could evaluate towards it.
Yeah, I just don't know that you have, even thinking about when you mentioned where we are, I don't know that we have specific exact rankings or rankable things that we ask for in our outcomes of, for example, crane employees. I don't know we always have that. It's very hard to
I
put.
think it's too nuanced
Yeah.
for that.
So you don't have performance goals that your employees have that you
Sure.
want to make sure they meet? I mean, it's,
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah, we have performance goals, but some of them are qualitative versus quantitative. You don't say, I mean, and oftentimes it's a supervisor's opinion, and they obviously try to take as much input in as they can, including a self-assessment, which one thing I don't think we did very good this year
Yeah.
was Kevin telling us how he thinks he did relative to our 11 goals or our standard 6. That's, I think, one piece that we ought to ask for next year is, hey, how do you think you did? Because that's a pretty common process when you're ranking or rating employees, where I'm at anyway. Right, and of course,
My
you're like,
side
hey,
of
I
the
think I did a
story.
great job.
Yeah.
But you always have areas, well, here's, I think, weaknesses or
And here's what I need
deltas or
to,
whatever you call them that don't sound like the negatives, but basically it's like, here's what I think I need to work on.
and here's what I need to do it, here's a reason.
Okay. Well, I will take, and I don't know, Scott, if you'd be willing to help, if we do take the standard 6-element rubric in our 4 focus areas and try to show some type of overlay or overlap that says these tie to this, and it may be a spaghetti chart, as they say, and it may come out to nonsense, but we could either see areas where we're, where we're not represented in the strategic plan or not represented in the rubric, and then decide if there's any meaningful adjustment or what meaningful adjustment may need to make on it.
What about our other 8? Are we gonna drop those? We need.
Well, that's a good question. Just quickly, those other, well, I'll rattle through all 11 of them. Develop a strategic plan, that was the first one. Establish a plan to evaluate, monitor the culture and environment of NLCS schools, focus on making continuous improvements. Establish a plan by which to increase recruitment and retention rates of highly motivated teachers and instructional staff across NLCS. Establish a time-bound plan with goals and objectives to increase student enrollment in NLCS. Develop a capital improvement plan, such required NLCS building can be four-time. 6, complete a physical study on potential use case of OMS facility. 7, review State Board of Account findings from 1820 and 2022 audits. Develop a plan to correct. For the 23-24 school year, there was a thing about readily usable application for teacher to family and school to family communication. There was review the trimester system we talked about. Review NLCS special ed program for compliance and effectiveness, and then evaluate the pay scale and PTO for all support staff, perform evaluation, and recommend changes appropriate. So, at least certainly I think the first few sound to me are kind of usurped in some of those objectives, focus areas within the strategic plan. But
Some of them
I
are
don't know.
done and some of them we're still not
Yeah.
touched.
Yeah, I think the capital improvement plan is underway as far as, and I think there's part of this that's about, one of these focus areas is about our facilities, right, or about our facilities and technology. So, I don't know, does anything stand out as not being, or being left out?
I've got one.
Left out of the ability to evaluate and looking at these 4 focus areas. I would agree probably specifically OMS is not part of facility
A lot
focus.
of them done, and we're just dropping them.
What's that?
A lot of them done, we're just dropping them.
Yeah. So I think we can all agree that the strategic plan is done. Trimesters, which was
Feasibility study,
9 is done.
6 and 7.
Feasible study, potential use cases, 6, SBOA, 7. Would you say, I guess, Kevin, do we have a readily usable application for teacher to family and school to family communication? Is that either Power School or?
And we also have communication directly that we use, that we send at night, because remember, we got rid of
Blackboard was the problem.
That was our problem child.
We got rid of that in
Yeah.
6 months.
Yes, in fact, it says this
It
would
didn't
either
work.
repair or replace Blackboard.
Yeah.
So that's been
We
done.
have Power School.
Capital improvement program is September that we're looking for that?
About October for all the facilities and costs.
What it sounds like is these 11 things here
Mhm.
probably need to be rewritten every year because you accomplished most of them. So therefore, you need to establish it. And next year, here are 5, 6, 7 points that we want to accomplish. And priorities and grade them on that. But I view this differently. The plan is a
I do
guide,
too.
it's not the constitution of the school.
Okay.
And evaluations are very subjective. I mean, I'm evaluated every day, but it depends on who's doing the evaluating. He sees me differently than you do, just as an example, and differently than she sees me. So every evaluation is totally subjective. But, you know, you just use the guidelines that you're given, and that's why it's called an evaluation. It's not something that's so concrete that it can't be changed, or it can't be different from somebody else's viewpoint. So I think, I mean, I like those 6 things here, but you're right, a lot of those are the same as what we have here. But it sounds to me like that the other 11 need to be rewritten every year, so he'll know exactly what we're looking at.
And that is, I guess, an avenue I didn't talk too much, but yeah, I guess that could be a thing where it's like, all right, the strategic plan is written, but we still have performance objectives that are
Certain
renewed
goals
every
out of
year.
the strategic plan.
That come up contextually depending on the year.
Right,
That still plug into this, but like if there's an issue that we see, like the trimester thing,
right.
that was only specific to that one year.
I just know when we did this, it was so big and bulky and so detailed.
Yeah,
That's
it's
why
more
we
of a
decided,
framework. It's a
that's why we
framework.
took out 4 of the focuses and generalized it,
Mhm.
Yeah,
so it wasn't.
And
book
it's a
fit.
framework for all the work that's being done in the whole system.
And not just for a year, I mean, it even says
Yeah.
the next 3 to 5 years, so it's just it's a guide,
Yeah.
basically.
And the outcomes should also be timed down, right? That's-
But then you could argue the outcomes of every employee should be to some degree tied to this. I see this as a framework, a broad framework of goals, and then I see the 6 areas plus what Justin suggested. I think that would give us the most meaningful evaluation each year.
okay. I think that's fair. I always said, well, we don't have one of these, so we really need these 11 things until we get this. But the reality
go
of it is,
together.
this continues to exist, as you said, a framework, and these become somewhat
Specific,
time-bound and
They're all
certain
specific
goals
for.
for this year.
Yeah.
For this year, for next year.
Well,
I mean, they're-
I doubt we can write by committee in 28 minutes next year's goals. How do you want to go about that, knowing that we're a month and a half into this performance period already?
Everybody make their own list and submit it to you, and then talk about, narrow them down.
Do another work
Do
session?
another work
right?
session.
Does that seem reasonable? And we have this framework, we have some very specific outcomes listed here somewhere.
How many do we have left after you?
After I check them all off?
Check them off, so
Like
we're
2 or
done.
3 at the most.
Well, some of them are probably
6, 7.
enduring, like,
We got
you know,
5 left.
enrollment, culture, environment. I mean, some of these, you may never not want to monitor the culture and environment. You may never not want to try and increase enrollment.
We got 2 through 5 and 10.
And some of them are very specific, like, the trimesters or the OMS building or
The Blackboard.
the Blackboard. And some of them are gonna be that rolling.
And 10 was the special ed. Obviously, we're going to want to keep that. So why don't let's see, 11, did we accomplish 11, which was evaluate current pay scale and pay down? Okay.
Yeah.
So why don't I knock the list down to, what did you say, Scott, 2 through 5 and then 10?
2 through 5 and 10.
Why don't I knock that down to the list, give it out to everybody, and say, hey, how does this look?
What would you add?
And what would you add, what's missing for the context of
Sounds
now?
good. Perfect.
All right, Kevin, anything else related to the strategic plan or performance objective?
My only question would be, what do you want to be graded on? Because, I mean, it's your evaluation, it has to be fair to you, but I mean, I need to know what I'm being evaluated on.
Right, well, I think the strategic plan, at the end of the year, you have to do a synopsis, because we had 70 people that were first started that plan. And we have to give them what have we got accomplished in the plan, and then we send it out to those 70 people to help write this. So they need to know what we're doing. It's an advertising thing too, to get out what we're trying to accomplish. The second is the ISBA is neat because it's consistent with all the superintendents in the state. What helps here, I've been in this 34 years, the feedback has helped me to grow. So I don't look at it as a negative when I have the conversation so far the 2 years. the people have come, the board president, the vice president have said, here are some ideas, but then they give me examples of how to grow. It's not like just giving you an evaluation, said, okay, you're 3.3, great job. I like when they go down and break down and say, hey, you might want to try this. There was some really good ideas this time that we're going to implement to help me function as a person. I can tell you last year, one of them was about me personally, because I was here 24/7. I mean, this was an ungodly task at the beginning, and when you first knew you want the job, you have no idea what's going to happen.
When I called you and offered,
Same to Barb, too.
I said, I'm gonna be very transparent here.
But-
Whatever you
but
say.
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah, but the neat thing is the feedback is what I think most teachers like, because how do you get better? And you make the corporation better, so.
But would it help you to have, I mean, I think it would help you to have, not this nebulous, oh, we're gonna evaluate you on this, but here are the objectives that you're working toward.
Right.
And then that can help you direct your staff
Directors,
here. Yeah,
Principals.
so I think having that really,
This is what we wanna accomplish this year.
And then I think that helped, by us spending so much time on this, I hope shows the importance of it, and we hope that trickles down to your directors and your direct reports and your administrators, such that your objectives become their objectives, then trickle on down, so.
and I think for you, keeping track of the things that you do, oh, this goes towards this objective, so that when you do your self-evaluation, you have something to say, here's what we've done in these areas, and it kind of builds itself.
So the first 11 goals, I have a file of each goal. You know, once we get done, I put information in it.
Yeah, but what we didn't ask for that I think would have been valuable, and this is my fault, because I think I had this thought at one point, was a self-assessment. Hey, how did you do in these 11 goals?
Well,
And you could have said, obviously, hey, trimesters, we knocked that out.
Yancy and I did it.
Yeah, oh, you
But,
did? We
but
mentioned that.
there are some areas, as we had reflection night, I was a little harder on myself than you.
Yeah.
Some areas you were really nice to me,
Okay.
than I was. So what I value is different what 7 people value, because I usually, mostly what affects children is that I don't really believe the roof leaking 20 places at one area totally affects a child until it collapses. Kids don't look at the HVAC works. Kids don't look to see if the roof is correct, because it should be working. That's just a common. But I looked at what I can tell you when we see reading scores go up, that really helped kids that we'll show tonight. The playground, when I go and I see playgrounds updated that were dilapidated horrendously here, that makes me feel good, because the kids, we want physical activity. When I walk in and I see that what you allowed to do in a couple buildings to clean them up that's been let go, and then I see the hard work our teachers did to help get these classrooms ready, it just gives you a real high. And because it's a team effort, it's not me. I might lead it, but it's a whole group of people, our teachers and everyone. But I personally enjoy the feedback, because I always felt like here, you were more about making me a better superintendent. And when I sit with you, you always have an idea. Here's multiple ideas, and I think that's what we need to do in our evaluations for teachers.
Yeah, agreed. I heard a lot of, well, there were just varying methods by which performance evaluations were being done or not done across the corporation as I came into the board, and I think that we expect you to expect your subordinates and then their subordinates to have these things consistently and rated, and so. All right, Kevin had asked if we could also touch on then the school calendar for year 26-27, right?
I would just say he obviously needs to know the standards before the year.
Yes, I agree. I
The year
think we ought to
starts.
try and, so let's try to put a period on that. I will send those 6 remaining out, 5 remaining, and then, ask that by the September meeting, so maybe give a 2-week turnaround on that and and then try to consolidate, and then maybe do another work session like this and just see,
Just
hey,
get it finalized.
you know, we've got 15 inputs, let's get it down to 7 or 8 or whatever it needs to be.
So you have 3 options there in the calendar for next school year. And we've discussed this before previously, and I spoke to our administrators, of course, the Career Center and the high school affects. So the gist of these three are when you start school, either the 5th or the 12th. It's a week difference. Now, you know, the state of Indiana allows you to go to the fair now as an exemption. The fair is going on now, and I do have teachers and administrators and a few students out for the fair. I asked Matt to correlate that data for me of how many kids, and he said right now it's not a huge number of kids who are going to the state fair. I do have some teachers out and some administrators that show. It would help if we push the date back to the 12th for the state fair somewhat. The problem with that is the number of days. You have 180 days, you'd like to have 90 each semester, because we went to semesters for trimester. The first one, as you can see, if you have the finals before Christmas, what we'd like to, you only have 84 days there. The second one, you have 96. That's 12 days different. That's too much. So you could move the finals after Christmas. As a principal for 15 years and as a teacher, I looked at that as being a disaster. Your academic AP and dual credit might study, but a lot of kids, the retention of the 2 weeks being off really hurts, and it costs you a letter grade if you fail the final. And that's if you get a high F. If you would get a 40 or 30% on the final, it's 20% of your grade. So the final really needs to be done before a break. The next one, the second one, we took fall break and we cut fall break. You can see fall breaks in October, so we cut only to have 2 days there. We cut 3. That gets you to 87, and the next is 93. That's doable because you have testing the second semester from the state of Indiana heavily. That mostly deals with elementary. High school has SAT and PSAT testing. You do have AP testing and so forth. The third is like what we have today. We start on the 5th, and it's very balanced, and this is what we usually went with. And you also have graduation the 28th on that Friday. And then every 9 weeks you have at least a week off, and that's usually what parents have been used to. Christmas you do have 2 weeks, of course, but
So on the second one, the fall break is
cut by 3 days.
Yeah, it's by 2 days.
back to the,
Yeah, we also looked at before Thanksgiving, but we have great evidence in the past where I've been, people travel the 25th before Thanksgiving, and they'll take the day. And now the attendance has become such an issue with the state, they're trying to limit. People are used to fall break, showing my age.
So why is it second week, it's always been the third week, fall break?
It is the
Second
third.
week
It's
of
a third.
October.
It's the third, it's the second full week, but it's the third week in
Yeah.
October. It's always
It's always
Columbus-
after the 9
it's
weeks
always
usually,
Columbus
if
Day
you do
week.
45 days.
9 weeks, that's what runs
Yep.
it.
What, my only question is, the start date, if we push it back, like all the sending schools or whatever, seems like anytime we
Yeah.
mess with the start date of school,
It
we can.
affects the Career Center, you're right.
Career Center can like make those kids miss like 3 weeks or, I don't know, I can't remember what it was, so, I mean, do you think those other schools will get on board with us if we push it back a week, or? we
It's
just-
possible.
Or we just have to deal with them missing? And so
I-
that was always brought up
yeah.
last time.
It's nice if we start the 5th, because you gotta remember, a lot of schools start at the end of July, it's sad. Yes, I know. You gotta remember, when I was a kid, we went on vacation the 3rd week of August, but you only had to go 170 days back when I was in school, not 180.
Yeah.
So that's why we're not as smart as kids today, because they get 2 extra weeks. That's,
And you thought,
170.
the state went to 180 days, you thought they might start the state fair a little sooner too.
yes.
Yeah, it is
Could
the
we-
same state.
Option 2, could we maybe move student start day to the 12th? Move teachers a week before, and that way you get 89 days out of that semester. I know that there's
it
teachers.
is the 12th.
This is-
But that's
No,
a
see,
two-day,
I'd rather-
that's a 2-day fall break.
I'd rather
No,
see
yeah,
us,
first student day on the 10th.
Oh.
seven to twelve, I mean,
Yeah, see, I'd rather see option one with this first student day on the tenth and have a full fall break. Full
Yeah.
week. I would rather see that.
Yeah, I don't think people are gonna be happy losing that period.
No.
We've had
It's
this.
the, it's become pretty popular. It's
But I
the-
like
it's the
it.
unbalance there that we wrestled that.
I
one.
know.
so you have a
Yeah, I
semester
know.
that short.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you would,
So it's-
well, you would
That's why you
start at
moved
the
it.
tenth, is that what you're saying?
I would, yeah, I'd go with option two. Start student day on the tenth.
Start on a Monday and.
Oh, I'm
start on
sorry,
Wednesday.
yeah, I like option two. 'Cause
Then
it-
you get 89 days.
Option two only has a 2-day.
No,
fall
okay,
break.
man,
fall
backwards.
break.
Yeah, I like option
No,
one.
wait, yeah.
Option one, move the
It's
start
all fall
date
break
back 2
until
days.
like 2000.
Now, when,
Or forward.
this shows my age again, why they usually start in the middle is because you're getting the kids back in their routine and then,
Yeah, everybody likes that too.
but, you know,
But they
you,
get it.
Can't have it all, I guess.
you can't, I mean, you're right, you can't make,
That's not a deal breaker.
No, it's
But it
not.
is
No,
nice.
but it is,
nice.
yeah, I've heard
So,
everybody.
when we
Like those
voted
extra
on it-
days for the semester.
2 years ago, we voted on 2 years worth, didn't we, at the
Yeah.
same time?
Yep.
So
Yeah, we're in your head, right?
we would be looking at 26, 27, and
if
27,
we would,
28.
if we get this ironed out, we would try to do 2 years.
I think that's good, that's helpful for
I-
parents to
definitely.
plan
I
vacation.
agree. So whatever we do, we'll just do the next year.
Cause I was gonna
Same.
bring it to the
Basically.
board next month.
Another thought is if you start it later, you're missing a week hot weather too, that you don't have to cool the building so much. Then you're going a little longer, maybe on the back end, but it's better weather.
So,
The problem is, there's too many breaks first semester. You have Thanksgiving that you don't look at, you don't have any breaks, you have
got
spring.
Christmas,
is it-
Thanksgiving, and.
I mean, it's a great first semester.
Yeah.
I mean, usually kids like first semester.
Yeah,
almost like it.
I would.
On the second.
So I will look, I will do one, we'll do a counter, we start at the tenth, and of course, adds 3 days, go back to a full week of fall break. And then I'll get that to you next month.
When do you, when do you
I
want,
only get you to 86.
when do you want to vote on this? Do you want it
Next month.
next month? Option 3, as it's written, is pretty much a mirror image of this year,
Yes.
just one day off, right? I mean, I think it's a little early start, but I don't know of a better,
Everybody around us starts then.
we kind of,
For student
Settle
focus,
on it.
if I'm a student focus, we should try to get the summer break as long as possible.
See, I'd rather break it up more than,
The
what's 8
potential-
weeks compared to 7 in the summer, to me, that's not a big deal, but I'd rather break it up throughout the school year.
So your ours is the most balanced, right? Is what we're doing.
Option
That's
3 is
balanced.
what we're doing now.
And that's the most balanced.
And that's with the other 6 schools that come in
Yeah,
North
they
Florida.
all start the same. Yeah, that's gonna be the big issue, I feel like, too. If we push it back. I doubt the other schools will push it back just for the career center,
I mean,
just because we asked them.
It's
Can you
all the
ask them?
clear stuff. I have,
What did they say?
they'd look at it. When I first came,
No.
when I first came, it was no. But again, they didn't know us, and we were just going through a little bit of chaos when I came. So today, I think we have earned quite a bit of respect, and also we've opened our doors for their kids to come to a lot of our programs. And we've been very fair on charging the other schools, and they know that. And I can tell you that another district is dealing with unfairness with career centers. And our career center has been very generous to the 6 schools around us. And now we're going to try to open up eventually being Cosmo. I really believe we should open up our academic classes if they're small to the area schools. Now, they will pay a little bit to come here, but we should be the beacon of hope for all those 6 schools around us. And we have some great top classes. Our AP and dual credits is one of the best around, so we should open up. And I'm not afraid, we've sent kids to other schools like aviation, we send to Brownstown. And I would be willing to look at other schools, but we should open up our facilities to all the kids around us who want to come here.
And I know we talked about,
Already Cosmos.
yeah, we talked about I actually think the starting midweek is kind of important. I mean, is it a deal breaker? I don't know, but I think that's not just for the students, but for the teachers to not have that first full week begin on a Monday is just, so I actually like option 3 the best. I'm not,
I have one question. Why do we have an e-learning day in October? I I get the November and May, I'm sure are probably election days, but what's the October sixth significance, do we know? We don't care, just wondering.
It's probably like PD.
I don't know what the sixth is, I can't think of, I know, you're right, November and May are election days.
Yeah.
Move that to second semester and we gain a day.
No, it's.
No, it's
Maybe
e-learning, so it's
it's
not,
so-
it's not
Oh,
day
that's
one.
right.
So the way you usually do, well, we used to do early e-learning is to make sure you have the process in place because it helps you second semester with snow. You usually like to
But
get,
you've got one 3
Do
weeks
we have one
later,
in
so
October
it
this year?
doesn't.
Cause it's not coming to
One in
me.
November makes sense.
Do we
October.
have one? October?
we want to,
We've got one sometime,
Lacey, what is it?
we do have one, we don't have an election.
I'm
this year,
curious,
but
what would teachers like to see as on a calendar?
Governor,
We're talking about
November
teacher start
4th.
times, what would they like?
Any option that puts finance.
We do have one in October, October
Well,
seventh, this year, we have one. Oh, neither, we have one in
That's why I think
November.
October.
Can you
Well, that's
accomplish
election.
finals
Yeah,
in
I don't even know if we have an election. this
6
year, but
days?
do we, okay,
It's
okay.
seriously unbalanced. Your math department at the high school will be recalcitrant to that, because they have it planned out day by day. And so you have a syllabus that's planned out for a certain number of days.
That's why I think option three,
And that means
that's,
these kids
it's
will
me.
get this experience, the kids who take the class a different semester, we get a 2 weeks
It's,
difference.
it's just for students who do the fair. I mean,
But it's hard.
people do it.
It's not
It's
ideal.
just affects so many.
So,
it's not what you,
Yeah,
It's not a huge number.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, true.
Parent-teacher conferences.
On this seventh.
Parent-teacher conferences.
Good job.
That's what
I'd
it is.
say when we
Good job.
first had that week, October
Yeah.
week, I thought it was too much.
On the
Having done it
They do
a
those
few
every
years,
night.
it's really
They
nice
do
to be
not
able to go
be
to
Okay, I was gonna say, am I supposed to?
Florida or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
No, I didn't
convenience
do
for
it.
families, but
we've done an open house.
Open house.
so a lot of
So
That's
we
what
can come in.
replaced.
So we didn't do that last year, but we had done
break
open house
is-
in the past.
Yeah, we need to go in and like go to all these classes with them and stuff.
We'd be
Get a
horrified.
trial schedule and get a walk here.
Yeah.
So,
I see your point, but
We're gonna take a lot of.
9 weeks compared to 8
Horrified.
weeks, I know. I do, but 9 weeks
I think
or 8 weeks in the summer
I'm
is
off
still a
for
long
3.
break, and kids need a break throughout the school. I mean, I think they go.
They get
All right,
off
let's,
early.
Fall break and
They get off early.
let's take a quick break.